Hello, hello, how do you do? We are the boys from New Bayview, and we're back with another episode of Glory Days of Gold, your East Fife and Scottish football podcast. I'm Michael McCall,
And Lee Gillis.
hello, hello,
I'm
and,
Gordon Edwards.
and we have some feedback because I had everything up just to make sure that the channel was working, and what a great start. I have so many things up here, I have no idea. What? Oh, someone else might have had the YouTube channel up. I think that's what it was. It isn't me. Anyway, we're live. Make of it what you will. Thank you for joining us for what is our very special 100th episode of the show. Let's just have a little play of our title music just to get everyone in the Glory Days of Gold mood.
Lord Provost Warren of Glasgow presents the Scottish League Cup to the side that lasted the course better, all-conquering East Fife.
As I made my way to that bench on Wellesley Road to sing my songs for the boys in black and gold, I heard the stories about 1938. I was just a boy, I knew I'd have to wait. There's broken dreams and what might have been at that stadium by the shore. But those glory days ago might return once more.
What I really like about that theme song is the end of it with the clapping. It's very much, I'm probably, you guys won't remember this, but Murphy's Mob. Does anyone remember Murphy's Mob from back in the day?
No.
You're really old, to be fair.
That is true.
Just
There.
putting it out there. Gordon and I are young pups.
I mean, it was shown from 1983 to 1986.
I mean, I wasn't even born, so
It's never been repeated. You guys
unlike
not familiar with the show?
Nope.
Never even heard of that. No.
Oh, well, if you check out aftn.co.uk, we have a whole Murphy's Mob section, including an interview with Wurzel, one of the young kids that was on the show.
back in the day.
Anyway, the guy that did, you'll know of Wiedersehen Pet.
Yes.
Right, so the guy that played Wayne, Gary Holton, the kind of young punky guy that died of a drug overdose. Keeping
I
it
mean, I
light.
remember the show, but I didn't watch it. But this is a very depressing way to start a podcast, Michael.
Yeah.
Particularly live on YouTube.
Keeping it light off the bat. But anyway, he did the theme song for Murphy's Mob.
Perfect. I'm really glad to know that, and I'm sure I'll definitely sleep better tonight for it as well.
Yeah.
But
anyway, that just brings me, of course, to the sad reasons that there's only three of us, because unfortunately, Mr. Douglas Perry is not able to join us.
he's not dead.
He's on the other
He's
side
not dead.
of the world.
Not this again.
Well, we've already brought you back. It's like we've had Banco's ghost, we've had Gordon's ghost. Hope you enjoyed the little Gordon's alive bit that I put in at the start of the last episode.
Yes, he's not dead. There's somebody else. So
Yes,
he's still
Well,
with us.
he is still with us. But yeah, so sadly Doug couldn't be with us for what is our special 100th episode of the show. But because we're going to be doing this live on YouTube, and we're also going to be releasing it as a podcast, we kind of have to do a couple of little bits that will then get sorted out by me in the edit. But one of those things is to hear a little bit from this episode's sponsors. So let's hear from them just now. Hopefully. At some point. My VLC is taking a while to load up. Here we go.
Let's hope so anyway.
Yeah. Apparently this will not play this way, so let's do it the way that I played the theme song. Technical wizardry. This is why we don't do live shows, to be honest. Problem is, I've got so much stuff muted because I'm trying not to have stuff play while we're talking. Here we go.
East Fife Community Football Club is proud to sponsor Glory Days of Gold. Keep up to date with all our community programmes through our Facebook and Twitter pages. There are classes available for every age and ability, from toddlers to walking football. Just search East Fife Community Football Club. Maze Mortgages are Fife-based mortgage and protection specialists. Our aim is to provide our clients with high-quality, personal and friendly service. Our advisors have over 25 years of industry experience and have an outstanding record for sourcing our clients the products that suit their needs. Where we're different though, unlike many other brokers, from start to finish, we won't charge you a penny. Contact us via Facebook to find out more.
Thanks, as always, to our sponsors, East Fife Community Football Club and Maze Mortgages. They've been very good in supporting us all season long. They support East Fife. Go and support them as well. So all that stuff out of the way, we can finally get into our 100th episode. Lee, just to start off, what does it mean to you to be having this 100th episode?
It's completely mental, isn't it? If you think back to the fact that we started this out of lockdown in 2020 because we were a little bit bored. And then, 2.5, nearly 3 years later, we've got a good following. We're around 250 people tune in to listen to us spout nonsense most weeks, which is pretty good. And obviously we started with the player interviews and then evolved into the after show chat, which, let's be honest, since we started doing this has been absolutely terrible because we've not had an awful lot to shout about. So whether we're the catalyst for that change, who knows? However, to make it to 100 episodes is absolutely amazing. And obviously probably got to take the opportunity to thank everybody that tunes in every week and makes it worthwhile doing what we do.
Yeah, I mean, Gordon, you went with us right from the start, but as soon as we wanted to add in the kind of post-game stuff, you were one of the guys that we were keen to get involved. How much have you enjoyed doing these shows over the last little bit?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, like you say, obviously you guys kind of started it up, and like everyone else was kind of listening to the player interviews for the first bit of the podcast. Really enjoyed that, and then when you invited people on to kind of chat about the football and stuff, I kind of thought that would be a really nice thing to do. And I suppose since I've been more regular on it, I mean, I don't know what it's like for you guys, but for me, I just kind of look forward to coming on and having a chat about East Fife, Scottish football and stuff. I almost don't really think of it as something that's kind of going out. For me, it's like the coming on and enjoying the chat and stuff like that is just fun. So that's it's been a different thing for me, but I've really enjoyed it.
Definitely the most follically challenged podcast in probably podcasting history as well, to be fair. I don't think that we're going to be winning any beauty awards either. So for
that is why we do a podcast.
Faces,
we have face for the radio, so that is why we're not doing many of these live shows. But it's a momentous occasion. And for anyone that has just tuned in, whether live or whether you listen to this later in the podcast, it's not just going to be us chatting. We've got a couple of special guests coming along. We're going to be joined by Dr. Goals, Kenny Dooker. He's going to be joining us. And then Eugene Clark is going to come along to talk about the latest bid to make East Fife a community-owned club. So they will be joining us as well for this special episode. And like for me, like when we started doing this, Lee, my original plan was just do it for a little bit, then hand over the reins to you guys. But I enjoy it. Can't make all the shows, but it's great just chatting to you. Having Gordon and Doug on as well has been fantastic. I think, like Gordon, you and Doug, it's different voices. We're all different ages as well. We've followed the club for a long time. It's a nice little group that we've got together here, and people seem to really enjoy us doing the show as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's what makes it worthwhile. I mean, going to games and stuff now, like people always come up and chat to you and tell you what they've liked about the show. Sometimes they tell you what they don't like about the show, or if they've had an opinion that they've disagreed with and stuff. And I think that's great. That's what doing it's about. And obviously football's a completely subjective sport, and people will always look and see things differently, and it's always good to just chat away to people. I've really enjoyed it. I have really enjoyed it, and I think that what we've done in terms of like obviously to begin with as well, like we raised quite a lot of money for the club, and we raised money obviously after the Clyde fiasco, so we've managed to invest some money into the club as well. And even when we were getting our sponsorship stuff and people sponsoring shows like on a sort of weekly basis, aside our costs, we always put that money straight into the club as well. So I'd like to think, and maybe some people will disagree, but I'd like to think that we've done a lot for the club as well.
Yeah, I think so as well. So I was busy last night. I was on a few websites getting some research, I believe it's called, for the show. But you've heard everyone's talking about Chat GPT at the moment. Well, yeah. Gordon's with me. Lee just looks absolutely puzzled.
What was it called?
Chat GPT.
Oh, right. No.
It's
no,
artificial intelligence. So basically,
right.
you could go into that and say, write me an article about Lee Gillis from Glenrothes.
Oh, fuck's sake. Right, okay.
I haven't done that.
Thank God.
I don't want the police arriving halfway through the show and we're like taking you away here. But like you can basically do anything. You can write radio shows, scripts, screenplays. It's actually quite scary. The Last Leg on Friday, I don't know if any of you guys watched that, but they used ChatGPT to write a joke for the show in the first part, and you had to try and work out which one of the jokes it was that it had written. And as it turned out, the joke that they had written was a joke that nobody had actually understood. And apparently when they were putting the show together, the producers were like, I don't understand that joke. But it's because the computer did it. So what I've done for the show, and I've got 3 of these, is, first of all, to honour our special occasion, Lee, I've asked ChatGPT to write a love poem about the 100th episode of Glory Days of Gold.
This should be beautiful, and perfect timing for Valentine's Day as well.
Yeah. It is actually quite spectacular. And just to reiterate, none of this is written by me. This is all written by an artificial intelligence computer just by typing in, write a poem for 100th episode of Glory Days of Gold. So here's the poem. Here's to the 100th episode of Glory Days of Gold, a podcast that brings back memories, both old and bold. With stories of triumphs and tales of the past, it takes us on a journey that's truly unsurpassed. From the highs of victory to the lows of defeat, Glory Days of Gold podcast can't be beat. With every episode, it shines a light on moments of greatness that took flight. With every story, it relives the passion, the excitement, the drama that was in fashion. From the roar of the crowd to the thrill of the game, it's all captured in the Glory Days of Gold name. So here's to the 100th episode, a milestone so grand, a celebration of sports and all that we've planned. May Glory Days of Gold podcast continue to soar and bring joy to our hearts forevermore.
Touching stuff. That's impressive though, actually, isn't it?
I know, because I did that one and I was like, fucking hell, this is good. So I got a little bit carried away last night. So I've got 3 for this show, a couple for my show over here about the Whitecaps. I'm going to be playing about with this. I don't think we need us to host the show anymore.
No,
we just
sack it up.
Yeah, type this in, transfer it to speech, stick that out, done and dusted.
Jobs are good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll be joined obviously in 10 minutes by Dr. Goals himself, obviously a man that needs no real introduction to Scottish football fans, but I don't know how many watchers or listeners or whatever you want to call them we've got just now, but please send your questions
to check
in.
That.
Yep. Please send your questions in for Kenny. I don't know if you could put them in the chat, Michael, or if it's a better case of tweeting or Facebook messages.
Yeah.
Like that.
So I would say, like, if you're watching on the chat, or if you're watching the YouTube stream, put it in the chat. I will be regularly checking it. We'll go through some of the messages that we've got just now of people watching. You can also get in touch, though, on Twitter at Glory Days of Gold. I'll be checking that throughout the show as well. I mean, we've already got some messages. Z Extra News says, evening, lads. John T, 1903. I know who you are, John T. Wants to know why I have a teddy bear suit on, minus the head.
I was wondering that.
Keith Lemon, little bear. Just wait for the. That is absolutely brilliant, and no, we don't want to see what he used to do in that scene either.
Do you want to see what's underneath?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I have clothes on. Reason I've got this on is because I'm in Canada and it's fucking cold. Because I'm
Absolutely.
upstairs in my spare room, just so that this is probably going to be a 2-hour show. I did not want my wife to be stuck in the bedroom like she usually is when we're doing these. And I'm just doing the show and all I hear is like, I'm like, what are you doing? So, just making a coffee, But no, this was
dead extra new that's in the chat as well is Jude Smith's dad. So hi to him, and obviously great to see how well Jude's doing down south, captain of the under-21s. So absolutely fair play to our Jude.
Yeah, I'd tried to see if the Whitecaps wanted to bring him over here because we're needing a goalie, but I think he probably gets paid a bit more with all the Saudi oil dollars.
Yes.
But no, he is doing fantastic. It's absolutely tremendous. Paul Galloway says I look like Fozzie Bear. Fozzie Bear! And yeah, John T did say Keith Lemon, Little Bear.
Yeah.
Ben Crichton, Mon the Fife, and Stephen Robertson, Who's Cutting Onions?
I know.
That's the poem. Clearly got to him. Well, I've got a poem for Kenny Duker when he comes on as well.
Excellent.
And just a general love poem to East Fife Football Club that we'll do at the end. So while we're waiting for Kenny to join us, he's going to join us at 8:30. And I would highly recommend everyone tell your friends that Kenny Duker is coming on. It is the only way that you're going to get to speak to a doctor these days, and you're going to have him for half an hour to an hour. Get all your ailments out there. I mean, Paul Galloway's bound to have tons he wants to ask about. Can finally get that little rash looked at that he's had for a long time.
Yeah, definitely could advocate for Kenny's doctor skills.
Yeah.
See that? Yeah.
Yeah, because
only because what he told us about when he had to act on the pitch when he was playing over in the States.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Just to bring the tone down again, one of the local, because I follow the local leads here, one of the guys collapsed 2 weekends ago and his heart stopped twice. He's okay, but it's just like, scary stuff. And the guy that owns the team is a doctor, but he wasn't at that game. So the opposition coach had to give CPR in the pitch and stuff.
Seems to be a lot of that happening in football these days.
Yeah, it's pretty scary stuff. But I mean, we will be joined by Kenny at past, and then we'll take questions for Kenny maybe for half an hour. Then we'll chat a little bit about the game yesterday, and then we've got Eugene talking about the meeting. You went along to that on Thursday. Did you go, Gordon, to the meeting?
No, I missed that. I got a wee update. My dad went along and kind of gave me the gist of it, but I wasn't.
Yeah, he sat across from me, your dad, actually, and arrived at Albion Rovers eating an apple yesterday.
Just to wind you up. He knows now.
He's trying to mug me off now, isn't he? He's trying to mug me off now.
See, that's fantastic. That's one of the tropes for the 100th show as well. So, but yeah, if you've got any questions, if you want to know anything, if you want to share your thoughts on East Fife just now, get them in on the chat on Facebook or onto Twitter.
Yeah.
Stephen Robertson wants to know if the Saudis might fancy buying a wee club from Methil.
The only shakes I know are the ones I get from McDonald's, so I don't think I could help out with that one.
I mean, Rachel's milkshake, I heard, brings all the boys to the yard.
I can categorically deny that.
Categorically
deny that. But
Doug's milkshake does, but it's just sadly Scott Young.
Yeah, exactly. Twerking in his garden.
Yeah, we're going to get all the old classics out over the course of this show.
Yeah.
because people aren't used to seeing us in our natural habitat, because I'm a bear in the wild, Canadian grizzly bear. I thought I'll wear this. It won't look so orange on the stream. That was maybe a bad one. I've got 3 of these because my wife bought me one for Christmas, and I was like, this is one of the warmest things I've ever owned. And it's really nice to rub yourself in.
I didn't realise that you got furry gimp suits.
Yeah. Oh, do you want me to go get my gimp mask?
No, I don't. Not even a little bit. We'll get cancelled. It's only our second live show. We're going to get cancelled.
I think I might get cancelled over here for the song that I've picked for my wavelength section this week. It's Cunting the Gang with Female Referee, but not the sexist version. I went for the unsexist version. So.
Oh, well, that's great. I'm glad that you chose the unsexist version. But yeah, I mean,
I can play it just now if you want to hear a little bit while we're waiting.
No, absolutely not. Have you managed to get the link out in the socials for questions, etc.?
I've put out that we're live. I haven't put the link out for questions. It's kind of hard to talk and type at the same time. So why don't you talk a little bit about anything you want?
Me, just anything in general? Well, I actually think it was excellent that the club managed to stump up a win for us for our 100th episode. Obviously, none of you guys were there. Your dad was there, though, Gordon, and we went along yesterday, and I actually thought we played pretty well. Probably our best defensive game of the season so far, certainly. But I mean, I could stop banging on about one win in 11, and now it's 2 wins in 12. But if we want to try and look at it more positively, Gordon, it's 4 points from 6.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I saw the highlights and I got a wee kind of summary from my dad at the game, and it sounds like we played pretty well. Something my dad mentioned as well, that we looked really solid defensively, and from the highlights, looked like we created quite a few good chances and played some good football. I know Albion Rovers maybe had a couple of chances start the second half, but a couple of balls across the box that were a wee bit.
Yeah.
But it looked like we kind of dominated, certainly in terms of chances created. So it looked like a good performance. And yeah, that's kind of 2 good performances in a row. So, I feel like makes a big difference. And 3 points, big.
Well, given this is a Scottish football podcast as well, I kind of feel like I should be Jim White here with my little tie and stuff on. But Partick have just sacked Ian McCall.
Oof. For not being Rangers, a bit harsh.
Yeah.
That is harsh. What was the score? I literally got up just over an hour before the show started, so I haven't seen anything. What was the score?
It was 3-2 the last time I checked.
Oh, wow.
I think we're 1-0 up at half time, though.
That does seem particularly harsh. There's got to be a little bit more to it than that.
But, I mean, they're spending some pretty big money.
They're not doing too well, really, are they? They were expecting top 4, I think, this year.
Yeah, it's a bit mental. But yeah, Ian McCall, Alan Archibald and Neil Scally off their duty, they've relieved them off their duties with immediate effect. That's insane, to be honest. But I think, obviously, they had that millionaire leaving them loads of money and obviously massively underachieved. But if it means that the new manager comes in, happens to hate Anton Dowds, and wants to ship him on loan to East Fife, then I would be absolutely delighted with that. We'll definitely take that. But hopefully our quest for a striker is still well on, because yesterday we took probably our only real out-and-out chance. It was a great finish from Schiavone. I know we'll talk about this a little bit more, but if any of the people watching were at the game yesterday, please put your thoughts of the game in the chat yesterday, or any discussion points that you want to go through. But I thought it was a hard-fought victory. I mean, probably Aaron Steele was one of the names that really stood out to me yesterday, because he had to mark Riley, who's been banging form for Albion Rovers, all season, and they didn't really get a look in yesterday. There's a couple of times that he beat Aaron, but I mean, that's to be expected, really, when you've got a player of that quality in their team. I was really surprised that he didn't leave in the transfer window. I really thought he'd gone, but probably the only other thing that ruined my day yesterday was that 91st minute Bonnyrigg winner, just when we thought we were going to put a bit of distance between us and them. you miss out.
That's the
which is
thing, though. It's like it's a good job we got that win yesterday because that would have piled real pressure on. I think we'd have gone to third bottom if we'd lost yesterday.
Yeah, I think the thing to bear in mind though is that the people below us are going to have a little bit of catching up to do as well because they've got some games in hand and things like that as well, don't they? So we could end up still slightly down table. But Greg, I mean, I always forget, but actually, we're only 3 points off third. Granted, I think some players of some of the teams below us have got more games in hand and stuff, but it's still nuts to think that given how poor we've been for large parts of this season, that we are only 3 points off the playoff places.
So we've just got a message from Kenny in the chat because we sent in the link. So we let Kenny know as soon as he joins, he's going to be live in the show. So I wanted to make sure that he did have clothes on. We didn't want any more unfortunate penis on air incidents after that time with Lee.
Yeah.
But so he's going to be with us shortly. He's just putting some clothes on, he says. So yeah, stay tuned. Kenny will be joining us soon. Since we're talking about teams in our league and stuff, I want to just give a big shout out to Elgin City for yesterday. What a performance. They really should have come away with that win against Ayr. They're going to be kicking themselves.
Yeah, but Elgin, one of those teams I'm quite happy to see lose. So, I mean, it was funny because when we were at the game yesterday, Isla said to me, she was like, "Oh, Elgin are beating Ayr," and I was like, "That'll be Kane Hester then." And lo and behold, it was
26 goals so far this year.
Insane.
Prison FC is going to have a fantastic team.
Exactly. Yeah, well, Greenwood's not going to be in it now, so Hester will have to bang the goals in.
What's the latest with that?
Yeah, probably not best to go on that on a live, but key witnesses didn't come forward, so the case has been dropped. Loving
fantastic.
Loving the shout from Stephen Robertson in the chat. Pat Slattery over Casemiro. Absolutely, Stephen. And speaking of which, hi to Ross Hutchinson's just put a message in the chat. Any interviews lined up? Lee said the other week they had interviews lined up. They had interviews in his top 5. I'd like to hear from Willie McKillop and Gordon Gilbert. Could probably speak to Kenny to get Gordon Gilbert in, but I suppose now's a good time than any to announce our next interview, and very topical because we only felt that it was right to bring in somebody that's a massive East Fife legend in for the next interview. And we recorded it this week and delighted to announce that Pat Slattery is our next interview. And that should hopefully be out not next week or this week coming, but the week after.
Okay. I'll get it all ready. And talking of legends, it's time to add in Kenny Dooker. Here he is, the man himself. Hopefully he has some clothes on. For some reason, his name is spelt with 2 N's and 2 Y's. It's Kenny Dooker.
He's just typed it as if it was how Caroline was announcing it.
It's the anticipation is like, is he going to be dressed as a bear? Is he going to be dressed as some other animal?
There is.
Oh, hey! Hopefully more sober than the last time he was on this show.
Well, I haven't managed to spell my name right.
No.
Your degree was in medicine, Kenny, not in English, yeah?
I know. I actually just changed it because it's normally Sylvie uses this, so I had obviously forgot to delete her Y. Don't know why.
How are we doing, sir?
Not bad, not bad. Looking forward to the Super Bowl later. So.
Wow, your time in America's really rubbed off on you.
Yeah, I love it. Love it.
I would have, but I'm a 49ers fan and they got beat, so I don't care anymore.
Aye, but they've struggled with their quarterback, so.
I know, like when you're down to your 5th string quarterback in a conference final, you're kind of in a little bit of trouble.
Aye, absolutely. But
Lee's switched off already.
I have. I started dozing.
It's great, Lee. You need to get into it. All the stats are amazing.
So we're going to have a lot of questions from Real Salt Lake fans. I'll put this out to them. So I've turned this
Oh,
into I've
really?
turned this into an MLS show, Lee.
Oh, you've been trying to do that since the first episode, Michael. Over here in Canada, we do this.
Well, I'm speaking to
Um,
Ryan Gold this week, but it's okay.
I think the first
Oh.
question for them might be why were you so bad?
Yeah.
That's funny. There's a few East Fife fans saying that in the chat as well. Well, obviously, great to have you join the on our 100th episode, Kenny. We felt it was fitting to have somebody that was an absolute legend at the club to join, but unfortunately, a few other people couldn't make it, so we thought we'd ask you. How does it feel to be back chatting about East Fife? I mean, you were one of the early episodes of our show, so
I mean, it's always a privilege to be asked to come back and, well, speak to people that like you.
there is definitely that. So while we're waiting for some questions for fans, there's one thing that I was asked to bring up to you yesterday. They've not managed to put it in the chat yet. So if she's not watching, it's from Isla English. And Isla said, my dad arranged to send a birthday card to Kenny in advance that had a return stamp on it. And all he had to do was to write her a wee message, wish her happy birthday, stick it back in the post box, and she would get it for her 18th birthday. Lo and behold, about 2 years later or something ridiculous like that, Isla gets a letter through our post box, and it's a birthday card from Kenny Duker saying, was tidying my study due to the arrival of number 3 child. And fair play to Kenny, he still filled it in with a printed off picture of him and current manager Greg McDonald celebrating a goal and a nice message to wish her happy birthday and asking about the family. So got to give you your kudos there, Kenny, but I suppose that is the definition of better late than never, right?
Belated. I'm really sorry about that. I was, but see, when you were telling that story, I was thinking, oh my God, I never replied, did I? Did I not reply? At least I managed, albeit 2 years too late.
It must be so difficult with the amount of fan mail that you get, right?
Oh. Yeah, it was at the bottom of the pile, and it took me 2 years to work my way through all my fan mail.
So
Oh, man, that's embarrassing.
Here's Isla in the chat. The card arrived on the 6th of February 2016. I turned 18 on the 14th of December 2011. Absolutely love that, by the way.
So how many years late was it?
It was 5 years. 5 years and 2 months later.
Oh my God.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
You wrote a message in it
I'm
saying,
ashamed.
have a good couple of years. I think the 2020s will be a fantastic time. Go travel and see the world.
That's it. Brilliant.
Is that what I wrote?
I have no idea. Isla, if you want to put in the chat, Isla said pigeon post and Denny. Isla, if you want to share with us what Kenny actually wrote in it,
I don't even think pigeons, do they live that long?
I don't know. More like snail post, I think. We did get another message in advance of you coming on.
Is this one less embarrassing?
This one is actually a nice message. It kind of pains me to say it though. It's from current manager Greg McDonald, who reached out and he said, "Tell Dukes I was asking for him. Terrific player and even better guy."
Oh, thanks very much.
He also said, "P.S. Can you come and play up front for us for the rest of the season?"
Yeah.
I'm already signed with Donny Pace over 35s. I'm afraid.
Is that because you're done a pace?
I never had any pace.
Didn't matter when you could head the ball.
It wasn't there to be lost.
There's a message in the chat from a Chris Gillis, who is hoping that Kenny will give Lee a lot of stick in the show.
My dad still listens to Kenny's episode. He goes back and listens to all the older episodes when he walks the dog. And for those of you that don't know, Kenny was firing into the whiskey in that episode. And as the chat went on, the more whiskey was consumed and the more pelters I got from Kenny throughout the show. So I think my dad still has a bit of a chuckle at that. And again, I undersold the amount of goals that Kenny scored for us. And I said in it, Mike, can you edit that part out and I'll give Kenny the correct number of goals? To which Kenny said, no, Lee, your listeners need to know that you're underprepared and you don't know your facts, so don't edit it out. And which makes my dad laugh every single time. We do have something else in the chat from Stephen Robertson. He said, if I'm ever feeling down, I'll always go back and watch Kenny's promotion clincher versus Queen's Park. Goosebumps every time. So for our listeners who maybe haven't listened to your episode, and if you haven't, please make sure you go and listen to it because it was a very good one. You told us about in that episode that it was something that you used to play regularly to get you up for a game if you were maybe struggling to get yourself in the right mindset.
I try to get my kids to watch it as well, but they don't get it. They don't get it. No, that was always we used a bit of hypnosis with my dad in the lead up to that game. So like the last couple, so we had lost the fourth last game of the season and the third last game of the season against Morton and Peterhead. But we knew that if we won the last two, that we were guaranteed promotion, even although we were sitting in third place, because we knew that Peterhead and Morton had to play each other on the last day. And if we won the two games, we would at least finish above one of them. And I used one of the things was to use a bit of imagery of like when did you feel like you were the best, like that you had succeeded at something, and the feeling of that. Now, obviously before that game I didn't have that one, but after that game my thing changed for the previous thing, which was a goal I scored when I was like 11, a last minute winner when I was 11. And obviously after that, I still used that sort of positive thinking and hypnosis type stuff before games, and the moment that I would feel before a game and to make me feel as if I was going to succeed was that goal and the celebration afterwards, and that like elation took that onto the park every game after that.
I think for me, I mean, and like Stephen, I still watch that all the time, regularly, because I still don't think even now I've ever experienced anything like that. Like, so my father-in-law, he'll regularly say, so my brother-in-law isn't interested in football at all. And he always says, how does he get his high? Like, because he's not much of a drinker, and well, we don't think he does drugs, but like, if you're not interested in any sport, like for example, like football, when you've experienced that absolute buzz of something like that, 90th minute winner to get promotion, first time in years, it's almost impossible to replicate that. Was there anything else in your career that came close to getting that level of elation?
No, it didn't really get any better than that. I was just lucky enough to be the person on the end of that, and I'm lucky that everybody associates that moment with me. It's an absolute privilege. I had a game with my kids' team yesterday, and we were 2-0 up, lost at half time. We lost a couple of goals in the second half. In fact, we conceded with 3 minutes to go for the equaliser, and we basically scored an injury time winner, and that wee boy scored the winner, and that brought that feeling back again to that West Fife. Well, it happened twice that season, West Fife. Obviously the promotion clincher was obviously the highlight, but there was another one down at Gretna where we won 3-2. So I was lucky enough to get that last minute winner feeling twice that season, but I can't think of any other times where it's been like that. And I was trying to explain to the kids yesterday that there's not a lot of times in their life even that they'll experience that. And the wee boy that scored the goal, and making a big deal of that, because you can't replicate, as you say, you cannot replicate that that feeling. It's something that the stars have got to align, and you're lucky enough to be that person that gets that goal. And that there'll be a lot of players that play for years and years and years and never aren't lucky enough to experience anything like that. And with the East Fife one, it was like the last minute of the season, not just like the game. And what was at stake at the time for everybody that was involved, teammates, family, fans, everybody. It is one of my most treasured memories.
I mean, you were with recently, I think maybe a couple of months ago, with Ross Graham and Gordon Gilbert out in South Africa. Was that one of the topics of conversation in your time at East Fife?
Well, that's why we are friends, and lucky enough to have made such good friends for my time at the club, because I think I can count on one hand the really good friends that I've still got and still keep in touch with for football, like not just East Fife, but for football. And Gilly obviously lives over in South Africa, but we really bonded, obviously, with everything that we went through that season, and the conversation obviously goes back to that. But we've created other memories over the years as well. But it all comes back to that season that we all kind of shared together.
What's Gilbert doing now?
He has a big factory that he runs, or owns his own business, and they make mining equipment for the gold and platinum mines over in Africa. I think mostly in like Botswana and maybe Zimbabwe as well. Not so much of the mines in South Africa, but his factory and things is in South Africa. And it's an incredible operation. It was amazing to see what he's doing. I went to his factory, and I didn't realise what kind of scale it was on, and it was brilliant to see, and to kind of see what he was really up to. And I mean, they're high grade machines, that like top notch stuff that he makes. So I really proud to see all of that.
What I'm hearing, Lee, is Gordon Gilbert, the man for us to get in touch with to buy the club. If he's in gold and platinum, he's got to be minted.
I mean, I would definitely say that, Kenny, if you can make that introduction, we'll have the chat with him. And I mean, at least, and if not, rather look after the commercial side for the club just now. So at least get a couple of advertising boards or something.
I should have worn his branded hat there for the. Oh, I wouldn't get it on over my headphones.
We've had folk wanting us to chat to him, so if you do speak to him, just mention that we'd love to have him on the show, and like to do an interview about his career and like his post-playing career as well. Would be fantastic.
I am sure he would be well up for that. He's got his East Fife strips and that, along with his like Kaiser Chiefs and Morocco Swallows
great band.
Stuff. He's got all that up in his gym. And like the East Fife strips for those seasons framed and that. So he would. I'm going to stick my neck in line and say that that's a done deal for him to appear on the show. I'm not sure about buying the club, but
We'll take a pair on the
you
show.
can maybe ambush him with that one on the show.
Yeah.
We
I
could get
heard a
him and Ross
story.
Graham. They've both got enough money between them, surely. Could
Heard a
sort
story
him.
that Gordon, like at his mine, they were digging one day, and it's like, is this gold? Is it platinum? And he had a look, and it was shining, and he's like, no, it's a ruby, 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 ruby.
Ooh. Anyway, we've had some questions come in, Kenny. You'll be pleased to know. The first one that's come through is from Scott Young that says, do you still look out for East Fife results? I.e., are we your Scottish team now?
1-0 yesterday, was it no?
Good man. Or is that just your pre-show check just to be safe?
Scott also says, look out your window, he's in your garden right now.
Sorry, what did he say?
Scott's in a bush in your garden outside right now, just watching.
He's moving himself.
No,
to the dog garden, isn't he?
I prepare for things like this, Lee.
Yeah.
Unlike yourself.
Well done. My dad will be happy, Kenny. Well done.
I just want to point out that as soon as I saw Chris saying, oh, I want Kenny to roast Lee, I took my jacket off. Because you missed what I was wearing, Kenny. I'm sure you would have roasted me for it. So I thought, I'll take it off before Kenny sees it. So
Yeah, it's like it was pretty horrendous, to be honest. Anyway, back to the question.
The question. I think the only disappointing thing for me is that East Fife is that far away that, you know, I wouldn't get to games like as much. I would love to, you know, regularly get through to games. Be easier if it was like 10-15 minutes down the road. But I always look out for the East Fife results. In fact, I get like a live feed of the East Fife games through WhatsApp like every single week.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But it's great. It's great. It's like a private personal service.
What more could we wish? So
I know.
what Kenny's referring to there is he's been in our Glory Days of Gold WhatsApp group since we did the Euros podcast, which feels like forever ago now. And he's still just stayed in there like some sort of creepy voyeur who just chips in. You know?
Every now and again.
yeah.
But I like it's an easy way for me to keep up to date with all the goings on in the club and who we're moaning about and such like.
Have you changed your opinion on Macedonia yet?
The dark horses.
Yeah, what they're gonna do it one day.
I don't think so. Keeping an eye on time, we've got a few other questions which have come in. So the next one is, Kenny, what is the funniest shout or insult you've heard coming from the stands?
The funniest shout or insult. I've been asked that one a few times. I've got a few.
Go on then. Give us them all.
So the one of the there's funny ones. There's no so funny ones. The one of the funniest ones was when I was at Falkirk and I was playing against Inverness Cali at the old Brockville, and the ball kind of come across and I've sclaffed the shot and like it was lucky to reach the goalkeeper, and I was kind of running back or down the side, and one of the Falkirk fans shouted, "Oh, Duka, the problem with you is all your brains are in your head."
Yeah, and that sounds like a typical from the stand shout.
And the other one, there was one that the police actually came in to like talk to me after an East Fife game, and we were playing Forfar in the Scottish Cup, and down where the away fans sit, I was over on that side, and one of the Forfar fans had shouted, "Paul Duker, away and give yourself a effing lethal injection, right? Right, so
Jesus.
I know it's hard, see, really hard. but a compliment, because if he knows a wee bit about my background and in medicine.
And he thought you were capable of doing it. So.
Obviously he didn't like me, so I take that for the opposition fans. If they didn't like me, then I must be doing something right.
Absolutely.
But so what had happened was we won that game on penalties. I think I scored a last minute almost equaliser and took it to penalties. And then I scored the winning penalty in the shootout. And I run over to the Forfar fans and I gave them that. And that's when the police came in after the game and like, did you do it? I says, I did it. They were, somebody shouted that I should go away and give myself a lethal injection, and the policeman just went, all right. And he just
Oh,
left. Like, I never got in trouble in it.
You should have just said I was telling them to go calf a cow.
But somebody reported me to the police, like at a East Fife Forfar game. The funnier one, like shout to the side, was when I was young. I was like 19. I was playing for Camelon Juniors, and it's all like the old guys and their dogs and that come to watch these games and stuff, and you can hear everything. And it was like right in front of like a load of like the Camelon supporters, and went in for a challenge or something, or their guy kicked the ball out for a throw in, and the referee inexplicably gave it to the other team, and that resulted in like the Camelon fans shouting, like spraying out their mouths, like swearing, like absolutely raging about this decision that was clearly the wrong decision. And it all kind of calmed down. And then my dad's posh voice pipes up, come on, referee, that defies the laws of physics. Like, cue everybody started laughing.
Goodness sake.
We've got quite a few
Still
good
uses-
questions
he
coming
still
in
uses-
now.
He still uses that shout, actually.
I like that.
Worth recycling.
Yeah, I might use that in my commentary.
I had a fair few.
That's a
questions
good one,
coming in.
isn't it? But then you'll need to reference it to my dad.
I will. I'm not sure people watching Varsity against Unity here is going to quite get that, but well, I can try.
Got to ask the question, Mike. Next question we've got was from my dad. Who was the hardest defender he came up against? And I'm hoping he's not meaning in his genitalia.
Well, I was thinking, did you not defend against Kenny Lee, and that's what he's talking about? You just had a huge
Obviously.
erection for the whole game.
No, he was too busy nutmegging me for that, unfortunately. I couldn't even
that
get
happen?
to tackle him. It did
Kenny went nuts, and you were like, "Yeah, look at them."
happen.
That was before, was it Doug Perry absolutely demolished me?
Yes.
Aye.
Doug Perry.
That's why
He
he's not
was,
on the
he was
show.
sticking up for his wee pal who'd just been megged, was he?
Something like that, I think, yeah. The worst part about that was, and for those that haven't listened to the episode we did, was I'd played in the first half of the game up front, and then they basically went, we need somebody to go back on, and I was breathing out my backside, and then they just announced over the tannoy that I was coming back on, so I got shunted out to left back, and you were up front against me, and you said, I'm going to put the ball through your legs, and I was like, you're arse, no, you're no, and literally first touch, then second touch, right through my legs, sent me for a hot dog. Still raging. But
That wasn't my forte either, obviously. So that's bad form for you, Lee.
I am horrendous, Kenny. There's no two ways about that.
Talking
But-
of Doug, though, I want to just show you this. When I was over in August, Doug gave Lee and me a bunch of his old strips. So this is one of the ones he gave me.
Ah, like it.
No, he doesn't like you anymore. He's just giving your strips away.
There you go.
That's class.
It's a bit
So-
sticky at the front. I don't know what he's been doing.
It's a bit smudged.
Seriously though, Kenny, could we find out who you're the best or the toughest player that you played against?
I would say Bobo Baldi. I played against him once and I hated it. It's just like he just like you knew he was coming. You were just waiting.
Braced for impact.
Aye, that's what it was like. There was no like no holding back. It was that was a horrible game. But like I normally like that. He just in particular was more athletic and to the guys that I was maybe used to playing against. Plus the fact they were good. So I was feeding off scraps playing for Gretna at Celtic Park, and I just was getting battered by Bobo Baldi all game. I mean, I had a lot of battles with a lot of centre halves. I mean, I always came off the pitch playing against Sol Bamba. Like the two of us probably bruises everywhere when we came off the pitch. But I generally seem to get the better of him over the 3 or 4 games that we played. We beat Dunfermline in the Challenge Cup final, and we hammered Hibs a couple of times with St John's, beat them 5-1 at McDermott Park. But he obviously went on to much bigger and better things after Scotland. But I really enjoyed like the battle there. Albeit you were in for a battle, but there were guys that some of the guys that were really aggressive, like the other guy that was really aggressive, that you knew you were going to get hit all the time was Marvin Andrews. But he was not, when I played against him, he was not good because he was too rash. Like he would miss things all the time. So you knew you were getting a chance. With Baldi, it was totally different. Like you weren't getting anything. So like it was just like you got smaller and smaller and smaller during the game, and didn't get any change out of him. But I had a lot of battles with players over. Darren Dodds, I hated playing against him. He just would hold on to you all the time, and like I would get fouls against me, and I'm like that to the ref. I'm trying to get away from him, ref. I'm no doing it. He's holding me. I'm nowhere to be anywhere near him. But I don't know. He'd been around for a long time, so he got the benefit of decisions. Like you find that way. Like the longer you're in the game, you start to maybe get some decisions that you wouldn't have got as a youngster, I suppose. So I benefited for that probably as I got older as well.
So a few more questions and a good few more, so I'll try and be as quick as I can with them. Blair has asked, was there ever an opportunity for you to come back to Bayview later in your career?
Yes, I think I've spoken about that before, but it was basically when I was past it. I was 30. I was coming up for 32. I was at Livingston, and John Hughes had came in, and I didn't want to play for him. And when it was a surprise that Gary Boland had got the sack actually there after consecutive promotions, and he'd offered me a new deal at Livingston, but I had said, I don't know if I'm going to like retire at the end of the season, so we'll talk about it at the end of the season. But then he got sacked about 6 weeks later. It's maybe because they told him he wanted to give me a new deal. But no, John Hughes came in and I said I didn't want to play for him. They were trying to get me on loan someplace like one of these emergency loans, and I ended up going to Stenhousemuir. But East Fife, they were going to think I can't remember who the chairman at the time was.
Sid
Was
Columbine.
it Sid Columbine? Aye, Sid Columbine, and they were going to offer me stupid money for part time, and I was like, I didn't want to spoil it. I didn't want to come back, and because my heart probably wasn't in football. Then I had like my kids. I was working full time, and I was kind of. Well, I had retired on my own terms for full time, and then I didn't want to sour the thing, especially with the type of money that they were talking about as well. So I just said, I'm just going to travel and that, and I went to Stennismuir for a few months. But my head, my heart wasn't in it then. I think I was a bit scunnered with Gary Boland getting sacked at the time, I think, because I really enjoyed it at Livy. And I retired in the summer properly anyway, so it wouldn't have been right. I had already said to Gary Boland at Christmas, saying, I'm not sure what I'm doing at the end of the season either. So it wouldn't have been fair to the club or the fans of that if I had came back to East Fife. Sorry guys.
No, that's like we've spoken about that before. Like when you come back, sometimes it's like Stevie Kirk came back to us as a legend, and then it didn't quite work out as a manager, and it's kind of soured some people's memories, and I think it soured his thoughts of the club as well. So sometimes it's good not to do that. Got a question from Glenn Walker who wants to know: have you ever met Jeff Stelling? Because obviously Jeff really played a big part in building up all people's awareness of you on Soccer Saturday. The good doctor.
I have. I've met him a couple of times. He before he was big time, so like before he was like the main man for Sky, he was when I signed for Northampton and went on loan. He had been like obviously the Sky Sports was a thing, and like I'd been scoring the goals, and like he had been saying my name all the time, but it still wasn't. It was becoming a big thing then, I think. The results show, and he was said to like be the guy with the experts. So he was like the guy who would be like running the show in the studio for Northampton, for Brentford v Northampton Town in League One, and on like a Monday or a Tuesday night. So he'd hung about waiting for me to say hello, and I got to meet him. I got to meet him then, just briefly, and then he obviously got a bit more famous. And after that, maybe about a year after that, a couple of years, I was working at Wishaw, and I used to work through a clinic in the morning, and then I do some joint injections in the afternoon. And Sky had contacted me and said, would you come and help open the Sky call centre at Uddingston? I thought, that's you and Jeff. I was like, that would be great. I'll come on my lunch hour. So I finished my clinic, what I said to them, I says, well, I will come, but I'm only coming on one condition. And he says, well, what's that? I says, well, I'm only coming if I can bring my grandma. Because obviously I had sent him he used to mention my grandma because I had sent him a card to say, look, please, if I score again, can you give my grandma a mention? She watches you every week. And obviously since I sent him that every single time, he would mention my grandma, and Sky Sports were up interviewing my grandma and all the rest of it. And she was a bit of a legend on Sky Sports and that as well. So I says, on the one condition, if I can bring my grandma, and they were all over that. They were like, oh, that's amazing. So me and my grandma went and met him, and then after that, until she died, she had a picture of her like meeting Jeff and me in the background in our living room, Friday Place, forever.
That's superb.
It was great. He was great. He's a really good guy, and he was great with my grandma. And then a mate of mine who is the manager of a team down in Blackpool, a team called Squires Gate. And,
Oh yeah.
So my mate's the manager of them, and they had like some kind of charity night or like raising funds or whatever. And he got Jeff today with a wee message. That was only about 3 months ago. Sorry, I don't know. Can you hear scratching? Like a noise, like interference?
I hear something, yeah.
My dog's in a cage. I'll not tell you what he's doing. You can work that one out yourself.
Mine's does the same.
Right.
Especially when you put peanut butter on it.
Gordon tries to do it to himself.
Oh, yeah.
Again with the peanut butter.
So
A jar of peanut butter, I think,
probably got
actually.
time for another couple of questions.
I've just chucked him and his lover in the hallway.
Excellent. So got a couple more questions, Kenny, and there's a really good one here from Neil Anderson. He said, when Kenny played with Greg McDonald, could he see that Greg would go into being a manager / becoming East Fife manager, or was there anybody else in that team that he thought could become East Fife manager one day?
So Greg was the manager at Stirling Albion, and he let me train with Stirling Albion while I was playing with Livingston, because Livingston were full time. So I needed to train with a different team in a different division, and somewhere local was good. So they did me a favour and let me go to training. We did draw them in the cup, unfortunately, and I scored a hat-trick against them, but I hope he's forgave me for that. I don't have the inside knowledge, you see.
Makes sense.
But no, I really enjoyed this training, and obviously we got on really well. But it's difficult for me because like the experience for me is positive, because like I wasn't under any pressure like for the coaches or anything. I was just going in there to like work hard and train, and obviously I wasn't there on match days. But like you remember, like Greg, his time at East Fife, he was always a leader, right? For when he came into the team, signed for us. He that was just a natural thing that he had. So like becoming a manager would be a kind of natural progression. But it's like you say, he's under pressure because it was so positive his time at the club as a player, and you've mentioned before it can be difficult to come back someplace. But credit to him, I didn't have the balls to do it, and he has. So hopefully he's as successful as a manager as what he was as a player.
Was there anybody else in that team that you thought might have gone on to become East Fife manager one day?
East Fife manager, well, the thing about that team really was that there was nobody really in that team that was like at that time had been at the club for very long. So we were all like, it was basically a whole new squad. There were hardly any players held over really in that team. So and a lot of us were young boys. So it's hard to say. I think John Ovinston went on to manage a few junior teams and such like. He had a decent career as a player. I'm not sure what if he's still managing just now. But yeah, it'd be difficult to say if anybody had like a proper tie-in at that time as to become a manager. Greg is obviously he was at East Fife a long time after that, and I don't think it's a surprise that he became a manager. I would have thought I maybe thought that Craig Farnan might have been a manager, maybe no East Fife, but you know, I might have thought that he might have became a manager, but I think he just, I don't know if he was, or if he did junior or whatever after it. I'm not really in touch with Craig anymore. And I think Big Ross Graham, he dabbled a wee bit, but I think he was more interested in, you know, spending time with his kids' teams and stuff that, you know, he had a lot of other things on the go. I mean, it's a full-time job. Like you're a part-time manager. It's like a full-time job. Like I take my kids' team and like I feel as if it takes up so much of my time and it's so stressful. Like I couldn't imagine what it's like to be like a part-time manager with a full-time job, like as well. Like I think that it's maybe forgotten a bit that like these guys are like working full-time jobs as well as trying to run a football club, which is a real difficult job. Like I know some part-time teams have their managers as full-time, but no, some just don't have the kind of funds to be able to pay that kind of money that people can survive and do the job full-time. So I think it's a terribly difficult thing, and it's not something that I think I could do unless I was retired.
Well, once Gordon Gilbert buys the club, mate, you never know how we make that happen. But time for two more questions. One from Paul Galloway. What's his favourite hole at Leaving Links?
Well, the obvious one is the 18th. Like albeit it's like absolutely murder if it's into the wind. But no, I didn't. I managed to play there, I think, a couple of times last year. So I've been wondering whether I'm going to keep the membership going, because, like I was saying about East Fife, it's a wee bit too far away just to like nip along for a few holes. You've got to commit to, you know, an hour there, an hour back, and you know the 4 hours in between every time. But I love the whole course. I'll tell you that I hate the 6th hole. Absolutely fucking hate that hole. It's gone my head. Like there's out of bounds down the right, and I can aim down the fairway, the other hole that's like on the left, and it still goes out of bounds. And I smashed somebody's car. My ball landed right on this guy's car. And it cost me £100 to get that fixed, man. Well, that was his excess on his insurance. £100. I hate that hole. I hate that hole.
Is play your goal celebration on YouTube before you hit the 6th hole.
I know.
You'll be absolutely fine.
I think Paul said his favourite hole at Leaving Links was Simone in the 8th bunker in 1984.
Nice. Inappropriate as always, Michael. Thanks very much.
There was a thing at Glenbervie Golf Club during COVID where 2 folk got caught in one of the bunkers. That's a true story. It was in the paper.
Man, the sand would just go everywhere.
Why?
I hope they raked it afterwards.
Why choose the bunker? No, because rakes weren't allowed during COVID.
Oh.
Well,
they removed the rakes. So,
and
no consideration.
Terrible.
Selfish people, Kenny. Selfish people. Last question. It's not so much a question, but we'll go with it anyways. From Ross Hutchison, said, "Who is the wee boy that got your boots at Steny after your last game? I was standing right next to him and hoping for a strip or some memento and got hee-haw except a high five. still hurts 20 years later.
Oh no.
Do you remember who you gave your boots to?
I think embarrassingly it was a wee boy for Derry.
That would have been Stenhouse Muir away.
I think I might be wrong, but I think it's a boy called James Black that he actually does some stuff for Rangers.
It's getting worse.
I know.
Well, I hope he still treasures them, Kenny.
At least I've
They'll
owned
be in a
up to it
fucking pawn
20
shop.
years later. Well, they'll not get much for them.
Well,
I can't remember. I actually can't remember giving away my boots, but I know that he was at the game.
you kept your shirt though, didn't you? Did you keep your shirt?
No for the Stennismuir one. I've got the shirt for the goal,
Yeah.
the promotion goal.
Okay,
I've got that framed up at my dad's. Like I put it on my wall. Remember, like
Yeah.
behind, like as if it was on my wall, like all the time.
Yeah,
For the last podcast, but it is up in my dad's. He's got a snooker table and that in the upstairs in the garage, and it's on the wall. Pride place.
good man.
Signed by all the players except one, except Gordon Love, who set up the goal.
Come on, that's we're missing an important part. But
I know.
he's something that we never really hear from these days. But look, Kenny, we've kept you a little bit longer than we said we were going to, so we'll wrap up at that. Thank you so much.
No, just before
wait, sorry, no, we don't. But
Yeah.
before we move on to something that's absolutely amazing, on behalf of Glory Days of Gold, thank you so much for coming on. But on behalf of East Fife fans everywhere, thanks for amazing memories throughout your career, and we really appreciate you coming on to talk to us once more. And we'll leave you on this ditty from Mike.
Yeah, so have you heard of ChatGPT? It's the AI thing that you can just type in a phrase or something and an AI computer will generate a story or something for you. So I typed in for the artificial intelligence to come up with a love poem for Kenny Dooker. And this is genuinely what it's come up with. Nothing to do with any of us. This is a computer that's written this for you.
Nah, this was Lee.
No?
This was Lee.
I swear to God, it's no me.
Oh, Kenny Dooker, our Hearts football star, your grace on the pitch near and far, with a smile on your face and a twinkle in your eye, you brought joy to the fans as you played high and by. Your skills on the ball were simply divine, your touch oh so gentle, like a summer's sunshine. And every time you scored, the crowd would roar, for they knew that with you they'd always soar. But it's not just your talent that has captured our heart, it's the way that you play, with so much passion and art. With every step you take and every move you make, you show the world that you truly love the game. That doesn't rhyme, I don't know where it came up with that bit. And then the last bit, so here's to you, Kenny Dooker. Our love for you will last, and we'll always remember the moments from your past. For you'll forever be a part of East Fife's history, and the fans will always remember your legacy.
I need that for the eulogy at my funeral.
I'll present it, mate. Don't worry.
Thank you for joining us, Kenny. That was genuinely composed by a computer.
That was really good.
I know. We did one for East Fife as well, which I'll do at the end. We did one for the podcast. They're all absolutely amazing.
Aye, that was amazing. But
We'll get Michael to copy and paste it and send it to you.
Yeah,
that'd be great. That'd be great.
Anyway,
thanks
cheers
very
for
much
joining us.
thanks very much for having me on. It's always a privilege to speak to yourselves and these Fife fans, and I'm up for it any time in the future.
Thank you. Go and enjoy the Super Bowl.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Cheers, Kenny.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Fantastic stuff from Kenny there. And yeah, we kept him a bit longer than we said we were going to. But we're joined now. Eugene Clark has come early. So we're going to let him on the show just now. We haven't warned him that he's going to be live as soon as we hit admit. So let's hope he's got his clothes on. Let's see what happens here. Good timing though, because that was great stuff there from Kenny. I don't have a poem for Eugene. Maybe I can quickly come up with one.
We'll see.
So yeah, keep the chats and stuff coming. So Eugene's going to be joining us to chat about the meeting that took place on Thursday night, the latest attempt for fans to try and make East Fife become a community-owned club, finally wresting the powers away from the 12-year-old owner. She's still 12. Picture Dorian Gray, she's just never moved on. But yeah, Eugene is going to give us a little bit of background to it. And Lee, you were at the meeting. So you and Eugene can have a little chat. So welcome to Eugene. You're live on the show immediately. Great to see you're dressed.
But of course, I'm just out of bed, of course.
So actually, so was I just before the show started. But I've got good reason to, because we're way behind here.
Indeed.
But yeah, thank you for joining us. We've just finished with Kenny. Kenny Duker overran a little bit, so it was perfect timing that you've just joined us. So
Yes,
I'll let Lee do a lot of the chatting in this because he was obviously at the meeting.
Yep.
That's fine. So welcome, Eugene. Episode 100 of Glory Days of Gold. We couldn't think of a better guest, to be honest.
Oh.
I said that to Kenny as well. I'm just trying to flatter everybody, but I thought it would be the perfect opportunity perhaps for people who weren't at the meeting to try and find out a little bit about it. And obviously I heard some of the really good questions that were asked and some of the not so good ones. So we'll try and keep it super relevant. So if you weren't there, what can you tell the East Fife fans just now about the potential offer that we've got to buy the club and what's changed from the last time?
Hi. Okay. Well, very, very simply, this is about taking our local football club out of the hands of a single investor who has no interest in it and putting it in the hands of the people who care about the club. So that's the basic aim. That was the aim behind setting up the Supporters Trust 20 odd years ago. And it's still our aim now. We did have an attempt to do so a few years back. It failed, largely because we couldn't raise enough money. At that time, what we did was we got fantastic support from lots and lots of people who were willing to pledge money to raise money to buy the shares that we need to get. Unfortunately, the valuation of the financial association that were going to lend us the money fell far short of the valuation of the person selling the shares. And so things kind of dwindled away for a while. You know, there didn't seem to be much way of bridging the gap. But there's three things that have changed since then. And this is why this particular attempt is absolutely crucial. And I think is probably the only good chance we're going to have for quite some time. So what's changed? The first thing is that there is a Scottish Government scheme to make money available to fans to help them to become more involved in their club. Now, the background to that, and by the way, do shut me up if you think I'm dribbling on too much and asking somebody else.
I think this is pertinent, so yeah.
Okay, right. Now, the background to that, any of us remember going to Dublin on a nice frosty day and then being told to bugger off 5 minutes before the game was due to start because of sheer incompetence on the part of the football authorities? Yes, all hands up. I love it. Right. I was annoyed about that, as many hundreds of people were. And I got together with a chap called Paul Goodwin, whom I've known for many years in Supporters Direct, first of all. Paul is now the founder and major runner of an organisation called the Scottish Football Supporters Association. Anyway, Paul and I, we were trying to get the football authorities to take responsibility for that and to set up a fund to compensate our fans who had gone across and whose time and money had been wasted because of sheer incompetence. We failed, but the conversation started and they continued. And what now, by the way, I should stress, the idea of getting compensation now is it's not going to happen, right? But what it did lead to was a genuine understanding that, wait a minute, when you look at Scottish football, you see that the people who are not even bottom of the list, but they're not quite on the sheet of paper yet, are the fans. You know, everyone's interested, sponsors, advertisers, the club owners, etc., etc. All these guys have a say and they're listened to, but fans aren't. So we pushed the case that this should change, and progress is slow, as you can understand. It is Scottish football we're talking about after all. But eventually, the Scottish Government agreed to set up a fund. It's got a posh name that I can't remember, right? We'll call it the Fans Fund, which was to help football. Now, just at that point, along comes COVID. The £1.5 million that had been allocated for this fund was dispersed in different ways. And I'm sure you all know that the clubs got helped in various ways. The Premier League clubs got low cost or interest-free loans. The rest of the Scottish football clubs got grants to help them survive. So that was that. However, that fund's still there. And we, or more precisely Paul, he was much more involved than I was, we're looking at how it could be used to help supporters do what we're trying to do, namely buy the club. The shortened version is that East Fife end up being one of the case studies that they want to try out. So we have been given a very strong signal that we will have a substantial amount of money lent to us. Can I make it clear? It's not a grant, right? But lent to us in order to help us buy out the major shareholding. Now, for guys and girls who aren't familiar with the shareholding set up at East Fife, the majority shareholding, 52% of the £200,000 shares, are owned by a company called Bayview Fife. Right? Bayview Fife. That company is owned by a single shareholder, a Miss Lorraine Twigg, and that essentially controls the club. However, she takes advice and is guided by a gentleman called Mr. Neil Rankin. Okay, and he calls the shots. Basically, he is quite open about it. I was speaking to him very recently again, and he's quite clear. He's not interested in the football club, right? He wants to get his money back somehow or other. He bought the shares, the majority shares from Julian Danskin when he was chair of the club, and has held them ever since. The current board are in place because that suits Mr. Rankin. And I just want, by the way, to place on record, I know this may not be a popular view, but I think that Jim Stevenson and his colleagues have done a fantastic job in keeping the club going and keeping it afloat in incredibly difficult circumstances. That may not be a popular view, but it's what I happen to believe. It doesn't mean to say I don't think it should change, but I do think they've done a good job. Mr. Rankin makes it quite clear that if somebody else comes along with the money, they'll get rid of the board and he'll sell his shares. He doesn't have a problem with that. So where does this leave us? Well, basically, there's two stages. If we can access, using the money that we hope we're going to get from Scottish Government, if we can add to that, which we will have to, because I'm pretty sure that what has been offered isn't going to be quite enough to do the entire deal, then we will be able to take control of the club. That means buying East Fife Football Club as a limited company, and that would include, we think at the moment, that would include the ground, the stadium, and a 30-metre perimeter around it. Okay. There's other things and this is one of the things that needs to get sorted out, exactly what is for sale and what's not for sale. And if the other bits, for example, the rest of the land is around for sale, then what does that involve, and so on and so forth. I don't think we need to get all that settled on a winner. Okay, so that's the first thing that's changed. We've got the strong possibility, we haven't got the money yet, so I'm not going to say we've got it, but we've got a strong possibility of getting substantial funding from lent to us by the Scottish Government at very favourable rates. The second thing that's changed is that in conversations with Mr. Rankin and myself and Paul Goodwin, he is much more amenable to doing a deal than he was in the past. Okay, now, any business deal, you don't know how it's going to be until it's happened. So, and that's why, and I know people get frustrated, but that's why it's very difficult to give any actual details of what's going on. Now, I hope people can understand that. You don't tell the person whose business you're trying to build how much money you've got, for example. You just don't do that. It doesn't work. But it is a bit more flexible, we think, than he had been in the past. In the past, he wanted all the money up front. He may not do so now. So that gives us confidence that a deal can be reached. And the third thing, and I think, to be personal, this is actually one of the key things, the whole landscape has changed as far as community ownership is concerned. If we go back a few years, community-owned clubs, it was lunacy. It's a bit like the argument sometimes people use in a different context. You're too wee and stupid to run it yourself. That's what people think about football fans. And when you look at some of the bizarre business decisions taken by our leading clubs over the years, you wonder, for God's sake, how did they actually come to that conclusion? Football fans are intelligent people. Football fans have skills and experience that they can bring to bear. They run businesses anyway. Why would they not run a football club? So that has shown itself in the fantastic growth of, even in Scotland, you've got 3 Premier clubs run by fans. You've got several other, I think it's 13 altogether throughout the Scottish Senior League, owned and run by their fans. It is now seen as a doable option. Now, and that's part, I think, of a trend. And it's a funny wee thing, because it's maybe one of the, or possibly the only good thing to have come out of COVID. If you look at the fantastic number of community organisations that have sprung up or have further developed as a result of the COVID illness. And in Levenmouth, you've got things like the Men's Shed, you've got the Ficers for the Community, you've got the East Fife Community Club. Now, they didn't all start or continue because of COVID, but they have really demonstrated how communities can come together. And I think that movement, not just around Leven and Methil, but that movement generally in Scotland, is something that we're seeing, and something that makes people say, wait a minute, see all these stupid wee folk in Scotland. Well, yes, they can run the things that are important to them. They can run their football clubs, for example, and make it a much more cohesive sort of thing. Because to me, and this may sound a bit fanciful, but to me, my local club is one of the few things that we have that says, hey, this is a community. If you go back 50 years, some of you are more able to do that than the rest of us on this call, of course. But if you go back, several years, and you think, what defined a community? It was things like, maybe it was all the same kind of jobs, so everybody worked in the pits or at the docks or whatever like that, or it was things like everyone went to the same church and everyone went to the same school, and a lot of that has disappeared. And I genuinely believe that one of the things that can hold a community like ours better together is its football club, but not if it's run by someone who doesn't care about it. And when you look at what's happening in our area at the moment, it's about to happen. Well, it is happening, and it will be even better. 2-3 years' time, Levenmouth will be unrecognisable. Or the railway line will have the fantastic facilities developed by the River Leven project. We'll have all this active travel paths and cycleways. We'll have a redevelopment of the prom. There's a lot going to happen, and it looks crap at the moment. I completely accept that, but that will change. And I want the football club to be at the centre of that. I also genuinely believe that as a business, and this is how we must approach this, as a business, East Fife Football Club will be successful, because there are so many revenue areas, there's so many kinds of activity that haven't been happening at the club for a range of reasons. I'm not going to point fingers at folk, right? Because it gets you, that's looking backwards. I don't do that, right? But there's a fantastic potential there for a club. And who knows, it might even lead us to greater success in the football field, you know?
It can't be much worse.
Oh, I don't know. We won yesterday. Mind you,
You tell him, Eugene. You tell him.
a guy's fair game, mind you. But listen, guys, I remember, and I'm not sure how many years ago, I remember standing in the bay, in the bar at Bayview, talking to, and some of you guys were probably there, talking to an open audience before a match, and it was crammed. And I remember standing up and saying, look, you know, all these clubs that we all know now, all the big clubs, they all started as community clubs, Barcelona, etc. They started with a few guys together who wanted to have a football club. I got laughed at, which I am frequently, I hasten to add. I got laughed at when I spent 6 years persuading folk we can get a railway line up, and hey, we did, you know. So that's an understandable reaction, perhaps. But I happen to think it's true. We can do these things. There's no reason we can't. So this fantastic combination of three aspects changing, I think, is going to give us the opportunity. There's a stack of work to be done to it. I mean, I've probably spent about, not looking for tears or something like that, I've probably spent several hours today farting about with people's names and sending out messages and all this sort of stuff, you know, and we're going to need a lot of help. But you know what? From that meeting on Thursday, we had about just 70 odd folk attended. We had 61 forms returned, and in the 61 forms returned, we've had almost 50 offers of help in all sorts of different ways, right? And that's just the start. That was one wee meeting in one wee room. So I think if we work hard, if people embrace this idea, if we stop laughing at it, if we stop thinking we can't do it, if we stop worrying about, oh, whatever, and we actually get on with making it happen, I think it can.
If somebody could dub the Braveheart music and stick it in behind that absolutely excellent rallying speech from Eugene there, I would really appreciate it.
We'll get taken down off Spotify again.
Yeah, I know, we've had that incident recently.
And you've
So
been
maybe
bad,
not.
have you? Oh dear.
Yeah. We'll blame Michael. But Eugene surmised perfectly, and I think that there was obviously a lot of contrasting opinions, etc., in the room, and I think that this forum will hopefully help people that maybe didn't understand or get the message on Thursday. I went into it and I said it on last week's show almost defiantly, like, I just don't understand how it could work. And then sat in that meeting on Thursday, like, what the hell can I do to make this happen? I think that, like you, I think that we've got probably the opportunity of a lifetime. And I could say this, and I know you can't, but getting that parasite out of our club once and for all. And I would urge all fans, and I'm sure that after listening to you there, Eugene, I'll all be saying the same. And some of the things that are coming through already are what can they do to help? And you know, what if you could speak to the fans just now? What is it you need from us to make this happen?
Well, first of all, just give us a few days to get organised, because we're basically, what we're trying to do is to buy a business, and we're doing it via the supporters. Well, sorry, we have to get the approval of the supporters trust, but I don't think that'll be a problem. We're doing it via there because we need some sort of legal vehicle to, you know, to actually start the bid off and get the proper legal setup sorted out. That sort of thing. So we need a wee bit of time to do that. But first of all, spreading the word, encouraging people to think it's possible, telling everybody you know about it, and seeing if you can do wee bits. Sometimes just giving support is enough to help a program. When myself and all the others involved in the rail campaign, we had we had good bits, we had bad bits, and at the bad bits, what kept us going was just folks saying, "How's it going?" You know, there was that, and there was people coming in. I think some of my priorities would be particularly to get a local business community on side. They've had a really crap time with it, so I'm not talking about asking them for money, but although I'm sure we will at some point. But just, getting them to say, yes, we believe this can happen, because that's what makes the difference. People, it's that you come to a crucial point when suddenly think, oh gosh, it can happen. That thing that I thought was a daft idea 2 or 3 years ago, wow, it can happen. So believing and helping others to believe in it is probably a key thing. But there will be all sorts of practical things. We need a lot of people. I've lived my life believing that everyone has skills and potentials that they don't know they have, or if they do know they have them, they're frightened to use them. And that's what we want to take advantage of. Our community in Leaven has absolutely all the knowledge and skills we need to make this successful. We need to get folk believing in it, and then being available to do things. I mean, as a wee example, I sent an email today to most people, apart from the ones where I typed email address wrongly, so I apologise for that, but we're sorting out. And I said, by the way, I could do with a bit of help with admin. I had a response within 3 minutes. Someone saying, yeah, okay, give us a shout, we'll sort it out. And that's the sort of thing we need to get up. We need folk chapping doors, and I mean that literally. And of course, not just actually Leavenmouth itself. It's surprising the number of our supporters who come from a little bit further out, Glenrothes, and not so many in Kirkcaldy, but they probably can't work out how to get the bus or something like that, But we've got that. So that's what I'd be looking for. It's a support, and let's try not to be too negative about it. There's a great Scottish tradition of saying no, you can't. And we need to go for it, and we will do. I think we will do. And if we don't, we shall die trying, Jans. We shall die trying.
Alba Gubrath.
I've got just before we get some of the chat questions, Lee, I've just got a couple of things for you, Eugene. Just that's kind of, I've been thinking about this since the meeting. So, I mean, you talked there about the good response from the people that have been at the meeting.
Yeah.
What's the response been like from other outside of it? Have you had other people contact you going, oh, we've just heard about this, or we love this idea? Have you had like local businessmen get in touch without obviously naming names and saying, yeah, tell us more, we're interested in this?
Not as yet, to be honest, not as yet. I mean, I've had calls from people that I know and messages saying, no, well done, and the sort of local authority people and councillors and stuff, she'll say, yeah, go for it, this sort of stuff. But no, it's a wee bit early for that. But that'll give us a week or two, that'll change, I'm quite sure, Michael.
The big kind of reservation I had when we talked about this last week before the meeting was, it's great buying the club, taking it back, having it owned by the fans, by the community. That's what we've wanted. I mean, if you go all the way back, when you and me first walked into Bayview to speak to Derek Brown.
Remember that?
I can't even remember how many years ago that was now. And then
I had hair.
Yeah, so did I. I think I had some. The trust it probably never reached what we had hoped it was going to at the time, but now we've got a chance to do this. But buying the club is just step one of this. What would then be needed to make it a viable effort? Would you be needing fans to be paying regular monthly contributions? Because where does the income come from to then give us the income to take this club up the leagues and to the next level that we've seen elsewhere in like non-leagues, the likes of Darvel, Kelty coming through? They've had benefactors, they've had someone bankrolling them. Would we have the capital to not just buy the club, but to run it?
That's a very good question. When I was doing a sort of risk analysis on this whole idea a couple of weeks back, when we thought it might be able to take off, the top risk factor is the lack of people to take it forward after we've bought it. Right? I genuinely think the buying of it shouldn't be too difficult. I think we'll be able to borrow the money, and we'll be able to show that we can repay that money. But as you correctly say, that's one thing. What about actually running the club? Now, the income from that, well, first of all, it's a normal income that a club would have, right? So you're still getting your season tickets and all the rest of it. I understand we have to fine young strapping commercial people who are very good at squeezing money out of folk. I've already alluded to the kind of, in general terms, to the commercial opportunities that are as yet unexploited, and they are, I think, considerable. So I think that would work as well. But there always has to be honesty, and as Paul Goodwin pointed out on Thursday night, he was behind the first buyout, and that was of Stirling Albion. And the first thing he had to do was, in his first address to the fans, as it were, was more or less to say, look, guys, we could get relegated this year because of the financial situation. And we just have to be open about that. Community ownership of the club, community ownership of the club is not going to be any guarantee of immediate football success. And like any other business, the priority has to be sorting the finances out and keeping our head above the water. So it's not going to be a quick fix. I, as I've indicated, think that there is the potential to make it a successful business. Where is the money coming from? As I said, the normal sources of income, plus the ones that perhaps haven't been exploited yet. I don't know, because we haven't spoken to anybody deliberately about it, but I think we'll be able to access funds that perhaps the club can't at the moment. So I should explain that when we buy the shares, we've then got ourselves a limited company, private limited company, which doesn't attract any sort of public funding or voluntary funding, because it's a private company. It's got shareholders. You don't give shareholders money from the public. Well, the Tory party do, but we don't talk about that. So what we do is we'll change that to some other form. A community interest company of some sort. The details, I'm not saying they do matter, but it doesn't, at this stage, it doesn't really matter what particular format. And that then would spark off eligibility for a lot of support that we can't get at the moment. So that I genuinely that could lead to stuff. And then there's various other forms of business development. We're a business, right? So we're eligible for business support. That sounds a bit vague, and he's looking for somebody else to pay it. Well, it's true, of course, there's some money there, we'll take it. But I think it'll be a difficult thing to do. As I say, the real difficulty we're having the right people in to run the business. And one of the very pleasing things that came out of Thursday night is that we asked one of the things people were asked to do was, then, would you be interested in becoming a future board member should we be successful? And we got a very positive response. We've got 9 so far, and that's just from a group. Now, we'll have to work out, right, what do we do with these people and how do we work this? And we'll be hearing about that quite soon, I hope. But if we get the right things together, the right people, and it doesn't have to be football supporters. And that's the thing, it has to be people who can run an organisation, run a business, and contribute to that. And
you need that business savvy.
Yeah, exactly. And there are people out there who will come forward, and I know they are, and I've got a couple in mind already, that will be approaching. And again, that's what everyone could do. Think, who do you know that you reckon could run a good business and would be willing to do something for the community? That's the kind of question, rather than who do you know who likes these Fife. That's a different angle. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, perfect. We've got quite a few in the chat. We don't want to keep you too long. We also don't want this show to go too much more than 2 hours, which we're heading towards just now. So Lee will rattle through some questions in the chat.
Okay.
What's your favourite biscuit?
I'm on a diet. But if you happen to want to know, it's those, what's those wee toffee ones? Do you call them millionaire biscuity things?
Oh, the caramel shortbread style thing.
That sort of stuff, yeah. Eat it by a ton.
What's your favourite jam?
Jam?
We just get all our sections out of the way in this one.
I don't like jam. I like marmalade.
Ah.
What's your favourite jam?
Traffic jam. Yep, there we go. We'll go to more serious questions, and an excellent one here from Barry Hancock. Eugene, you said that the meeting, that the valuation would be put on the club. Who makes this valuation, and where do we go if Rankin wants a figure way above the valuation?
Simple question to answer. The valuation is made by an agreement between the seller and the purchaser. It's like anything else. If the valuation is too high, well, we don't do it. That's simple as that, you know.
Awesome. Has there been any response from the current board, and do they back it?
No, and I don't know.
That's what I thought the answer would be. Eugene, are you saying that you could change the club as an entity from a limited company, and how does this affect existing shareholders?
Good question again. Okay, it can be done in a number of ways. Stennismuir Football Club, by the way, Stennismuir is one of the leading football authorities in Scotland, and it was where I was born and brought up. No coincidence between the two, of course. But with Stennismuir Club, they turned themselves into a community company, and what happened was that the shareholders simply said, okay, we'll do it, right? Because if you think about it, we're not talking about Man City or Man United or your Celtic and Rangers where the shares are actually worth anything, you know? So it's a question of getting the agreement of the majority of the shareholders to take that step. In fact, it would need, I think, 75% if I remember correctly. And you just simply say, we're no longer a private company. We are now a community interest company. There's another route to it. It will be the, assuming things go to plan, when once the supporters trust members have given the okay for this, that the supporters trust simply have East Fife as one of their assets and can therefore run it the way they want. You know, so there's probably one or two other ways. We could turn it into that's what's called a SCIO, Scottish Charitable Incorporated Organisation, which is half charity, half company. So there's a number of options. Other organisations have done the same thing. It's not a unique thing. It's not going to be an experimental thing. The key part of it, though, if I can maybe just spell this out, because I think sometimes don't get this. The key part of it is that if you're a member of the company that buys it, if it's community interest or any other things I've mentioned, then that means it doesn't matter how much money you've contributed, you've got one vote. Okay. In contrast with a private limited company, the guy who's put most money in it with most shares gets to call the shots. Yeah. And I think that's one of the key bits, because instead of one person determining this, you've got a democratic way of doing it. And that comes down to appointing the board. I was asked on Thursday night, a couple of people, you know, what about the existing board members? You know, they've been good guys, would you just throw them out? Well, of course I wouldn't just throw them out. But what would happen? You would have your annual general meeting, and I reckon it would fall into all those attending. Some would say, yeah, these have been really good guys, done a fantastic job, but would want a change. Or some would say, these have been really good guys, have done a fantastic job, we want them to stay. And whoever had most votes would, that would determine the outcome. So the actual format of moving from a limited company to some other form, it's relatively straightforward, to be honest.
So, like, if we bought Rankin shares and we had the majority of the ownership, and then the second and third highest share owners said, we don't want this, we don't agree with this.
Tough, we've got the majority.
Yeah, so there's nothing they can do, but they could obviously say, do you want to buy our shares? But we don't have to, because... That's correct. Yeah, that's okay. Correct.
That's correct.
There's no point just throwing too much money away if you don't need to, because you need that money to run the club.
No, what I mean, just on that point, and don't want to get tied down too much in legalities here, but yeah, with 52%, just fraction under 52% of the shares would give us control of everything to do with running the club. If we wanted to change the format of it, then we I think. I must double check this, but I think we need to get 75%. So either 70
that's
or 75%.
What I was thinking, yeah.
So to do that, it would be very helpful to get the agreement of the second biggest shareholder, because that would take us up to that. that's one of these things we just have to get sorted out as time goes on. But it wouldn't stop us with the majority shareholding running the club the way we want, basically.
So what do the next couple of weeks, months look like then? Is there any way that people can get in touch with you right now? Where would be the best if they want to say they want help or whatever?
Right. Okay. At the moment, the only communication thing we've got open is an email address. It's neweffc@gmail.com. Okay. It's monitored by myself and Alan Duthie and Ian Lawson. That'll be developed. We'll get people in that have already offered to help out with the social media side, so we'll be getting that developed. But if you just want to express an interest, drop a line to neweffc@gmail.com and give us a wee bit of time to get things sorted out. As I say, there's quite a lot to do. What I'm working on at the moment is arranging all the people who I said that they want to help out. I've got them sorted out in the groups. I'll be getting in touch with them in the next few days, working out how we're going to work it. Yeah. To me. So a wee bit of patience. I mean, we'll wait here 120 years for this, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've waited this long for this as well. It's been like 14, 15 years we've been trying to get stuff going, so we can surely wait a little bit longer. Any more questions from the chat, Lee? That pretty much.
There's been a couple. So there's one of the questions that we've asked: would there be any benefit in getting the local authority involved? I
have to be careful here in answering that.
Yes.
The Fife Council are a wonderful group of people, and have lots of bits of them can help organisations. I'm quite sure that should we get this sorted out, we'd be able to take access of that.
Excellent. There's a few other questions that have come in, but I'm very, very conscious of time. I think those are the main ones which I probably feel that can tackle that. But more than anything, Eugene, thanks so much. I know how much work you've put into this, not just in this time round, but in previous iterations of this movement as well. Really appreciate it. And if we manage to get this off the ground, we'll put your statue outside of Bayview alongside Paul McManus's one once we've raised the money to do so. So
absolutely.
I mean, if you can get elected as a Liberal Democrat, I mean, I think you can get anything done.
I'm making actually no comment, but I think you're probably right.
Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, thank you so much to Eugene Clark, and make sure that you back this bid with everything you can. And if there's anything you can do to help, the email address that Eugene's mentioned, please get in contact.
That's great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the chance to tell them.
Eugene.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Eugene.
Bye.
Thanks so much to Eugene Clark for jumping on to explain all that. So neweffc@gmail.com is the email address. Obviously, all of us at Glory Days of Gold very supportive of this bid and anything that we can do as a podcast as well. Eugene, just let us know and we will get everything done. That's pretty much it for the show. We've got no more guests jumping on. What we will quickly do, though, is a quick wrap-up of the game yesterday. I mean, it was a 1-0 win. I watched the highlights and it scored early. Great, well-taken goal by Ryan Schiavone. Hopefully, we're going to see the Ryan Schiavone that we saw earlier in the season after those injuries coming back to a bit of form. What I loved about the finish was as he had that angle, the keeper's thinking he's either going to try and hit it through my legs or he's going to hit it to my left, but instead he went to the right. And I just thought that showed the football IQ of the guy to have a finish like that. It was a fairly...
The composure is massive, particularly for so early into the game. Like you, I didn't actually see the quality of the finish until I watched it again in the highlights. And that was outstanding. But not so much just the goal from Schiavone, but the actual setup from Ferguson.
Oh, yeah, that was a through ball to love.
Again, the through ball was beautiful, but we're actually missing the fact that he had to win that ball. He beats 2 or 3 men with quick feet before he can even get himself into that position. it just for me, it sort of begs the question where that Ferguson's been since probably Bonnyrigg. And I wonder if it's because he's maybe not playing in the position he would like to, because I think that's where Alan Troughton's playing.
Possibly. I mean, the game, from watching the highlights, Gordon wasn't able to get through. You were at it, Lee, but it seemed a fairly even game, and we did kind of live a little bit on the edge at times. Alan Fleming had a couple of flaps, and quite uncharacteristic of him, but I think the good aspect of it is we held firm defensively. We dealt with any kind of scares, and we cleared the ball. We had some other chances of our own to score, including obviously that stoppage time penalty. But, I mean, overall, it wasn't a commanding victory, but it was a well-deserved and I think a solid victory.
Yeah, I think good teams can win ugly, Mike. And it's not something that we've really done this season. This might sound a bit like an oxymoron, but we weren't good, but we deserved to win.
Yeah.
And I think that Aaron Steele, I touched on it earlier when we were just kicking the show up. Aaron Steele was excellent against Riley yesterday. So much so they switched him aside, but then Liam Newton gave him a doing as well, so they switched him back. If you can keep players like Charlie Riley quiet, then you know you've set up your team right. And I was watching Sam Denham, Aidan Quinn, and in fact Liam Newton as well. All of them were excellent yesterday, and I just wonder if Denham and Quinn are going to start building up a really good relationship. Because what I have wondered when we had Steele and Denham is if they were both so similar that they almost cancelled each other out, because both of them like to get the ball and run with it, etc. Where Quinn, honestly, I think he wins headers in his sleep. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if at like 3 a.m. he gets up and just fresh airs a header, just because that's all he did yesterday. But I think we deserved the win. It wasn't sexy, but you went out, you got the goal. I kind of felt like, again, we really lack that creativity. I still think that we missed that, but Ferguson just showed that spark yesterday that he can make it happen. I think Jack Healy had one of his quieter games yesterday, but I think the boy Denham looks like he could be a really good signing. Just again, we talk about that football intelligence. I've seen him a few times yesterday. He picks up the ball and he goes and he wins us the corner. I mean, we must have had 10 corners more yesterday, because just that little bit of intelligence, instead of maybe risking putting in a corner when you've got a cross, when you've got a man in front of you and it might go somewhere, actually just being smart enough to kick the ball off the boy's shins, getting the corner and then getting everybody in for it. So I think that definitely we've got a little bit of potential with Denham, but we're still crying out for a striker. And although Ryan Schiavone did well to get his goal yesterday, he needs help, because what I've observed, and we've done it all season, is we play a long ball and it's great, you get the flick on, but you need somebody going in behind them, and Shepherd was good at it, Schiavone's good at it as well, getting that flick on, but you've got to have that bit of support as well.
I mean, Gordon, not sexy, got the job done. That's Rachel's Yelp review of Lee. But a must-win game, really, when you look at the table, and they got those points, is giving us that little bit of breathing space, but we still can't rest on our laurels too much. We're still in one hell of a dogfight.
No, I think it definitely, it was a big game. We knew it was a big game beforehand, but I think the way the results went elsewhere, you're like, oh, in hindsight, that was a must-win. I mean, anything other than a win, and I think the table's looking pretty scary.
Yeah.
Whereas, you feel like, okay, we're still 7 points to the bottom, but now we've pushed a few teams.
Yeah, 3 from third. It's like insane.
Yeah. It's like sometimes having that number of teams below you is so important, because they can't all go on a wee run. Bonnyrigg go on a wee run, Albion Rovers might be shite, Stranraer might be shite. That's fine. And we still are closer to fourth than we are to 10th, which is mental. But I think, we did. I think especially when you're on a poor run, what you want is just a jobs done performance. Like, the rest of it is for almost another time. You just want to be solid, hard to beat, take your chances, do enough to win and win. That's for now. That's perfect.
And unbeaten in 2 now as well gives them that little bit of confidence, and they've stopped the rot. Right now, when you look at the table, if I'm a Stranraer fan, I think I'm the most worried.
I mean, their form's terrible. We were talking about our form being bad, but I had a wee check, and yeah, I mean they're right at the bottom of the form table.
Yeah.
Like
They
in the
turned
last
us
6
over a few
minutes.
weeks ago. They absolutely turned us over at
Well,
Bayview.
But that is the only points they've got in their last 6 games.
They're one of those teams as well that you feel they drop out of the league, they are not coming back because of what league they're going to end up going into.
Well, they'll
Yeah.
struggle because
Yeah.
how are you going to attract players down there? I mean, they already struggle, but yeah. No, I think there's a few teams now. Like you're looking at Bonnyrigg, you know, Albion Rovers are down there, Stranraer are really struggling. I mean, that game against us aside, they've been terrible. So there's a few teams down there that hopefully you can just keep them down there, get a wee bit further ahead of them, and stop worrying about it too much. But we'll see.
Lee, do you want to do a quick 3-2-1 for yesterday?
Yes, I've given 3 points to Alex Ferguson. More so because it's just more from what I want to see from East Fife, just try to get on the ascendancy, picking the ball up and trying to break forward from it. 2 points I've given to Aaron Steele, who I thought was excellent, and I've given 1 point to Sam Denham, just because I thought that those guys were great. But equally, you know, commiserations to Schiavone, who I thought had a good game. Liam Newton had a good game. Aidan Denham had a good game. So it could have been any of them. One thing I do want to say though is I felt so sorry for Scott Shepherd yesterday. I felt so sorry for him because he just looks to me a player that's got no confidence at all. And this is going to sound bad, but see when he stepped up yesterday, he took the ball off Ferguson, and I kind of closed my eyes. I was like, I don't know if he's got the confidence for this just now.
He didn't hit it with a lot of confidence. I mean, that's a perfect height for a keeper to get
He
over
stuck
to.
it into the dream keeper position.
Yeah.
You know, you guess right, you saved it. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, with literally just taking Troughton off, like, shocker.
Oh, and
but-
let's just say about that, thank heavens Conor McManus is back fit again. After 16 months out, it's like lovely to see him back on the pitch and making a contribution as well in the limited time he had on there.
Yeah, I mean, he just looks like he's going to add that maybe bit of physicality that we lack in the middle of the pack. And it's not a slight on Pat, or it's not a slight on Kieran Miller, but he's a bigger, fuller guy, bit more height about him. And to be honest, I think that it's going to provide some real sort of challenge for places in that, and it'll be interesting to see who drops out of that, because Pat's had 2 good games.
Yeah, it was great to see Pat keep his place. I was delighted, especially after our chat midweek with him.
Certainly.
Like when folk hear that, you're going to be in no doubt at all about his commitment to this club.
Yeah,
and it's all you can ask for from a player at this level.
Yeah, it was a really good chat, and I'm sure the listeners will enjoy it. But yeah, Conor McManus coming back was great, but you know, my heart kind of sank for Shep yesterday. But the other good thing is that means that when we bring Troughton off, Conor McManus can take a mean penalty as well. So we've got another penalty taker in the team if Troughton comes off the park. So look at next week's another big game. You know, we've been terrible both games against Dumbarton, and I know that Greg said that in his chat after the game yesterday that he thought in the first game that we played all right against them, but again we can't seem to create enough chances in games to put them away. So fingers crossed. I mean, we're coming up to the end of February now, where that loan window is going to shut. So we're really in the last couple of weeks being able to improve our squad, and I still think that we need a striker desperately between now and then.
I mean, 12 games to go, and Gordon, you look at next week, Dumbarton. If we get a point next week, I think that's a huge success for us, because I don't see that coming. The week after, away to Stranraer. Now, it's obviously too early to say that, win that and we're pretty much safe, but that one, and then probably the Bonnyrigg game that's coming up on the 18th of March, those are 2 games that you could get, if you take 6 points from that, and we're back to, oh, if this, if that, etc., that we've done for the last 2 years. But those are the two games that you feel get the points there, and we're almost not looking over our shoulder anymore, and we're just looking to see how high up the table we could maybe finish.
Oh yeah, I think if you're taking like 6 out of the next 9, it almost certainly would be sitting here going, you know, we're a good bit away from bottom. We're ahead of all these teams. It's time to start looking up again. And it's been a mental league for that, because a couple of results and you're thinking playoffs or promotion, a couple of results and suddenly you're checking the Bonnyrigg score. But there's no doubt if these Stranraer Bonnyrigg games are big, and if we can go into them in a bit of form and win them, things will look a whole lot better, and we'll be able to put them down kind of in a bit of the shit, which would be nice.
I think that's pretty much it for this show. It's been a long one. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a very entertaining one. It was great to have Kenny on. It was great to have Eugene on. 2 very different interviews talking about very different things. A nod to the past, a look to the future. And that's what we're all about on the podcast. And it's been our 100th episode. For me personally, I just want to thank everyone that's been with us from the start and that's just listened. Just go around you two guys for final thoughts, anything that's kind of caught your eye this week, amusing wise or whatever. Let's start with Gordon.
I missed a lot of what was going on in kind of football this week, but I did want to say that I'm really glad that Chat GPT really took note of the smile on Kenny's face and the twinkle in his eye, because I think it's something we forget about with all these goals, that it's nice to see that recognised.
Yeah, I'm just glad the next line wasn't anything about having a packet of sweets. I was getting a little bit worried.
I thought that was the way it was going. It's like, this is really terrible.
We've got one more poem to come to finish the show as well.
Can't wait.
Lee, any final thoughts from you?
No, just again, thanks to everyone who's been with us from the start. Yourself, Michael, wouldn't be possible without you. All the time that you put into editing the show. Gordon, Doug for their contributions every week. The social media messages that we get on a regular basis, the emails, fans stopping me at games to give me their thoughts or ask me questions, things like that. It's been an amazing 2.5 years, unbelievable to hit 100 episodes. Thanks to our sponsors who obviously help us with the running costs, and probably should say thanks to the likes of my parents and my wife, who, if the little one's been a little bit rowdy when I'm meant to be coming on to record, allow me to sneak away to come and do this. So thanks to everybody, and it's been an absolute pleasure to do it.
I'm just going to finish with the last Chat GPT poem. This one is about East Fife. Now, I have actually changed a couple of little bits in this, because for some reason they keep talking about how we play in blue and white stripes. So the computer's obviously not that good, but here is, if you type in write a love poem or write a poem about East Fife Football Club, this is what it came up with. O East Fife, the team so bold, with players fierce and hearts of gold. Their passion shines through every match. Their love for the game, they never batch. From Methil to the fields of Leven, the Fife faithful, their support given. With banners high and voices loud, their love for their club stands so proud. The black and gold stripes, so crisp and bright, their colours worn with such delight. And on the pitch the players play with determination every day. For East Fife the battle cry, a battle hymn that never dies. And though they may lose the fight, their spirit remains ever so bright. So here's to East Fife, the team we love, their courage, their spirit, sent from above. May they always play with all their might and bring glory to the black and gold. Doesn't scan at the end because it does say blue and white, but aside from that, it's not too bad.
It chose a lot of words that end in the syllable "ite."
Yeah.
I'm really glad that it didn't take some certain decisions.
Yes. Well, I've looked at your league position And I'm sorry, but you're shite.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that you were kind of waiting on that one, yeah. And if not, one of us was going to interject with it. But
Yes.
so that was actually really good. And I think Kenny's one certainly takes.
That was the best one.
I mean,
I'm going to go
genuinely-
back into it and see if I can get one written about Lee Gillis.
No, please don't.
Oh, no. I'm going to do one for all three of you for the next show.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks
Yeah.
so much to everybody. We've had some good numbers joining in today. I genuinely thought we were going to be talking to like 6 people. So we've definitely had some good people come along. Thanks to all the comments in the chat. Henry and Willie, the conversation you guys had yourself was quite something to watch. Thanks to we've had Gordon Scott, we've had Paul Galloway, my dad, of course, because I knew he'd be there, John Tyndall, Mr. Smith himself, Glenn Walker. Thanks to all you guys. And that, like I say, this has lasted a little bit longer than we thought it would, but we hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah. And just for you guys, the two of you that know, as soon as we stop the stream, I just need to end it. So we're going to disappear. So there'll be no more chatting. I'll let you guys get to bed. But yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We will be back with another episode soon. We'll just leave you with Glory Days of Gold.
Lord Provost Warren of Glasgow presents the Scottish League Cup to the side that last in the course banner, all-conquering East Fife.
As I made my way to that bench on Welford Road to sing my songs for the boys in black and gold, I heard the stories about 1938. I was just a boy, I knew I'd have to wait. Now there's broken dreams and what might have been at that stadium by the shore. But those glory days ago might return once more.
Bye, everybody. Go enjoy the Super Isle. Superb Isle. Bye.
Should have had Doug